Breathwork changed my life, now I'll help you change yours. In 2013, my world was turned upside down when my partner was murdered. I was thrown into grief, a place I never expected to be. The last decade plus has been a journey of healing, learning what works and what doesn't. Also how to rebuild from the darkest of places. I founded Vidya Breathwork, a method designed to make healing simple and accessible, and now I train facilitators to share this transformative practice globally. Welcome to The Dark Side with Verity, the podcast where we get real about transformation, growth, and stepping into your strength. Let's dive in. Beautiful. Welcome. Let's breathe. Let's take a big cleansing inhale for today. There's a lot to work through and a lot of emotions that flow through our body. So let's begin to feel. Big inhale through the nose and a long, solid, cleansing exhale. Let your body arrive and let's begin to learn to feel. Our emotions are literally that. They're energy in motion. And our body is just trying to find a way to navigate this. So if we imagine something is coming into our body and it's literally trying to find an escape route, the more that we block the pathways, this emotion has nowhere to go. So we talk about feelings, emotions, especially me being a female. I felt a lot of emotions over the years, and to a degree that perhaps I didn't really know at the time what that was, or it felt too much for my body. Because there's been times where I've developed these coping mechanisms because my body was almost stuck. And it was too much for my body to process and too much for my body to feel. I will take you back to, I was 15, almost 16. And I remember having a bath, I had a face mask on, like all of the self-care routines at that age were in play. And I remember mum yelling out saying, do you want to have a chat with Nan on the phone? I was like, no, I'll call her later, I'm in the bath. And my Nan was, like I've mentioned, one of my favorite people in the world. She was the nicest, kindest human. I don't know one person that had a bad word to say about her. I remember being a teenager and all of the emotions were flowing through my body. And I remember going, Nan, like stop talking. I don't want to be mean to you. She had that much great energy that every part of my body, even like hormones when I was younger, did not want to even yell at her or tell her to be quiet. It was just not possible with her. She's someone that I've always strived to be like, because just having such good energy, everyone always wanted to be around her, and just had the biggest heart. So that phone call that I chose not to take by having my self-care routine, that would have been the last time that I spoke to my Nan, because after that she passed away in her sleep. And going down for the funeral back to our hometown, it was a lot for my body. Like I'd already been through a lot that year. My parents had separated, my dad had left, I think, at that point, and they were separating. I'd also gone through a really big process where I was raped. And so that period of my life from like 15 turning 16, all of these huge things happened and my body just developed a way to cope. And this is where at the time, like I did not make a big deal about it, because what I know now looking back, completely different. But at the time I would eat and then get rid of that, and it just became a process for my body. Being down there, I was like, oh, it's not a conscious thought, by the way, either. It's that I feel stressed. I'm not even sure that at that age I was calling it stress. I just knew that every time I ate, I would like go back to the bathroom and get rid of it. And it wasn't something that I was necessarily hiding. I spoke about it and made it like, oh, I just feel sick, because reality is like I actually did feel sick, but I'd made it into this normalized version of release. Looking back now, it was not, it was me not finding a way to be able to feel my emotions. They were too strong, the sadness was too much. The thought of somebody dying was too much, especially my favorite person in the world. And when I say favorite person, we would go to, say, an appointment, an eye doctor appointment, and we're all in the room. Like, I'd gone first, trying to read the numbers, and my sister and I both wore glasses growing up. So it became like a bit of a funny joke. And so I'd gone through, read all of my numbers and letters, and then my sister was doing hers and she kept getting them wrong. And my nan and I were sitting in the room like, when the giggles start and you just cannot stop them. And then my mum at that point, get outside. And so Nan and I are sitting in the waiting room, and you know when someone's energy and someone's laughter is so infectious? Her and I were giggling. By the time my mum and my sister walked out, the entire waiting room was just in hysterics. One of the best moments, because you just are with people that you love, and in the simplest of times, even though we were giggling, let's say with my sister, because she was also laughing at me, you just remember those simple times, I guess is what I'm saying. And sometimes we think that the big moments in life or big achievements are what we remember, but they're honestly not. And so through Nan passing and everything that had happened that year, I developed an eating disorder, and it was my way of coping. So we all find different ways to cope, and I'm definitely not saying that this is a healthy way, because it was not a healthy way. And the repercussions of that became even more and more unhealthy. I had so many gut issues that I had to work through, but also a lot of the self-worth issues and then body issues came up, because at that point in time, then I would call myself like so fat, like I was a fat bulimic. Like, how could that even be possible? But I continued to always normalize this. And it continued a little bit through life, but then when Josh passed away, it come like back in a really big way again. So I guess at that time as well, like I wasn't really eating much, but then when I did, I would need to get rid of it. It's like my body couldn't cope with something else to do. Well, that's what I told myself anyway. So if you are going through these struggles or issues, one, there is people to talk to and to help, and it doesn't help to normalize it in your life either. What did really help for me was I had an eating coach, and she really taught me to have a different relationship with food, because at that point also, by the time like Josh had passed, I had a very structured way of eating. I didn't really eat for enjoyment. It was, this is my bodybuilding diet. I would organize my food plan, and it wasn't enjoyable for me. Maybe my first boyfriend told me, he's like, do you live to eat or do you eat to live? And at that point I remember thinking, oh, I don't know. I'm pretty sure I liked food when I was younger. I was a chubby little kid, so maybe even that was the turning point. I don't really know. But finding ways to feel your emotions and to work with them became a really big process in my life. So I worked with a eating coach, and we went through lots of stuff. Meditation was a huge part of it, because it was learning to love my body and finding a way to nourish my body. So rather than always fueling it and thinking about the calories or what I was putting in, far out, I was really brutal to myself. I found diaries where I would write the calories, I'd written my weight, and it wasn't a lot, but I'd written down how fat I was, and I was so mean to myself. I would never speak to anyone like that. But when you're in that process, it's pretty rough. So we think other people are bullies. Well, whoa, we can be our own worst enemy. And I always just think, imagine how many degrees I'd have if I wasn't thinking about my body, what food I was putting into it, and all of this stress that I was creating myself rather than learning to feel my emotions. So as you can see, I'm very passionate about teaching all of the emotions and why it's important to learn to know what they are, but also to learn to feel them and then a healthy way to release. Because if you don't, that's when our coping mechanism kind of like rear their ugly heads and cause chaos. So if I can help other people avoid that, that is what I would like to do. It's basically giving yourself freedom and permission to explore all the emotions in a really safe way. So through this process, and I do this in my facilitator training with my facilitators, I also do it in the Breathe to Heal program, and that will be all available in the app. This process is really a way of discovering your vitality, discovering your true self, without sounding so cliche. But it's discovering the extraordinary human that you are and that have always been. And maybe some people have told you otherwise at certain point in times, but as you go further in life, you realize nothing anyone says or does is about you. It's always a reflection or a perception of themselves. And that's why it's heartbreaking if someone is horrible to you. It's having enough compassion for them. Because really it's not you, it's whatever they're going through. So if they have a big unleash or they're really mean to you or mean to someone, it's generally because they haven't been able to process their emotions. And like this is huge in men and women because we see it so much, and it's horrible when people aren't willing to continue living because they don't see a way out. And in my mind, I always wonder, imagine if you were able to feel your emotions, to be able to process them and understand that there is a different way to perceive things. There is a different way to view each situation. Because there's times where the situation is the same, but when you're in a good headspace and when you're not in a good headspace, your reactions will be very, very different, and the way that you talk about it, the way that you see a possible future is very different. So let's talk about a couple of the emotions. Denial, and this is natural. And sometimes it's necessary because when you're faced with massive trauma or something that is very overwhelming for you, denial is a protection or it's a coping mechanism. So we know that healing is not linear. It's like this massive scribble, this massive wave. And if we don't do stuff about that, hurt people. And it's never intentional because you just don't know any better. And when you're in complete denial, you're not feeling your emotions, you're not moving forward. You're just putting like one foot in front of the other in survival mode. And that's the sad part, because everybody deserves to feel good and everybody deserves to heal themselves, to take up space. But all of this requires action from you. And sometimes you don't even know what you're doing. My entire journey was just a fumbled mess of seeing something that I think would work or resonated. So I gave it a go. And I was still not afraid of failing. Maybe it was more afraid of like, what if it works? Or being seen. Because I don't ever think failure is a bad thing. I pick myself up really quickly. I can move forward. But what if I'm great at it? And even today, I listened to I did a breathwork session with my sister, and we listened to one of my pre-recorded sessions from Breathe to Heal in week 1. And I had tears at the end thinking, oh, that was so good. Like, it's okay to be seen, to be good. So denial is just a part. In all of this, there's no good or bad emotion. because it moves through our body, and it's another signal telling us that maybe it was too much at the time to feel then, but like our little onion layers of protection, one peels off, we're like, okay, it's a bit safe. We're able to move forward through this. Then let's discuss anger. So this is a powerful emotion that needs expression. If you do not express your anger, what happens? It resides in your body. It stays as tension. Tension becomes stress. You're frustrated. Everything gets tight. The whole body tenses up. And if it's not able to move through the body, it becomes disease in the body. And that's when we end up with all of these issues. It's a natural response. It's a natural response to loss. It's a natural response to being hurt, for being frustrated. And so as you learn to express your anger, it becomes a really healthy pathway. Anger is not designed to be unleashed into somebody else, because hurt people, right? This is our way of finding what works for us. For me, previous to like really feeling angry, my release of anger was to cry. And then I kind of turned it into sadness. So maybe I didn't really know that it was anger. And maybe it wasn't expressed in a way that felt like it was an actual release. Then me at the gym, that is where I got rid of my anger. Like, it's definitely not possible for me to like press 350 kilos now. Back then it was. So imagine all of that built up anger just had like somewhere to go. The other one is boxing. I loved boxing because it's powerful. Directing your anger out of your body. It doesn't have to be like these extreme versions, because going for a run is now one of my favorite. So wild to think this is my favorite thing to do. But I hated running before. It makes me angry. But by the end of the run, I feel good. Same with yoga. I love a flow class. But if you move it into a hatha and hold the poses for a little longer, I feel the rage build in my body. When I did Ayurveda testing and studied it years ago, I remember thinking, I know what my dosha type is. So you have 3, you're generally a combo of all of them. There's generally 2 dominant ones. And so Vata, you're a bit more flighty, a bit more anxiety. Kapha is a bit more like dense, heavy, and Pitta is a bit more fiery. I was like, oh yeah, I'm definitely like Kapha. That would be me. But when I did the actual testing and quiz, the doctor that I was seeing at the time was like, oh yeah, you're all Pitta. Definitely. There's a little bit of Kapha, but mostly Pitta. And I thought, whoa, like imagine all the rage that was in my body or like in my liver, because I was just frustrated that shit things had happened in life. But I'd always found a way to, I'm strong enough to deal with anything that comes at my way. Great, you could be strong, but you're also allowed to be pissed off, because sometimes things aren't fair or things happen and it sucks. So anger is a healthy emotion. We all just need to find ways that work for us, and everybody will be different to release it. So once you do, it is like freedom, because you release any attachments to what made you angry, the person, the emotion, the situation, whatever it is, you set yourself free by just feeling. So do you ever think about all the things you didn't do because you were angry at someone, or all the time that was wasted because you were angry? I really believe like we're here to love, but we're here to learn to let go, because life will keep moving. And if we can learn to let go, like I think, imagine if I could have let go of the title of being an interior designer a long time ago. But I held on to it for so long, one, because it was almost like a part of Josh believing in me, and like that was part of my identity. It was like I had a real profession that people were proud of me of doing, and I was successful at it. But then stepping into breath work or teaching yoga, like what kind of assumptions did that bring up for others? Or having a job that I had more free time. It's wild that everybody else's opinions that we can take on that can course correct our life if we let it. So letting go of all of these things, letting go of my house, like if I sold my house a long time ago, it would have, as much as I loved the house and it was the place that Josh and I had bought together, it didn't serve me to have this massive 5-bedroom house on my own. So feeling our emotions and learning to let them go. So let's talk about survival. So one of the most freeing things that we can do is look at all of our learned behaviors, because it's just about taking action. Because if we don't take action, we stay stuck and we stay in survival mode, because our techniques, our tools, our habits, our behaviors that got us here, they were all there for a reason, most because we just didn't want to feel. And so once our body reveals and accepts, it's like we get to relinquish all control that they might have had over our entire lives. And there's many reasons for survival. Maybe it's just safety. Maybe it's security. Maybe it's a need for self-esteem, like having a job title. Or maybe it's a need for affection, to prove that we are worthy of love, or to prove that we are lovable. Maybe it's a need for control, perceived control, or power. Maybe you felt like previously all your power had been taken away, and this is how you found a space to control. And it can be displayed in many forms, whether we become really detached and withdrawn and become numb, or whether we become really compliant and we become the good girl or boy, or whether we become really assertive and aggressive and forceful in our ways of showing. So survival is, again, none of this is bad as long as all we are doing is reflecting with awareness so that we can move forward and grow and learn. Next one let's touch on is sadness. It's this unpopular, uncomfortable feeling. And generally we're taught to ignore it. Like boys don't cry, girls, especially when you're going through your teenage years or hormones, can be labeled crazy if you don't feel, or if you're like too sad, or if you feel too much, or even if you're too much. But unless you're able to feel sadness and allow yourself to cry, then you're staying in denial and you just go right back to the start, or the start, wherever the start is in emotions. So if you want to cry. Years ago I was taught, always let the tears fall past your cheeks, because they need somewhere to go. Or if you're like stopping the tears, you're physically telling your body to stop feeling. So let them fall. Let yourself be released from denial. Because if you stay in denial, you become in avoidance, and that makes us prone to addictive behavior. And that can be drinking, drugs, partying, but it's also being really positive, working out all the time, being like Miss Positive, and everything is like seeing the good side. There's a reason that there's waves of emotions that move through, and there's a reason why breathwork was like the missing piece for me, because I can, like everybody, can rationalize a feeling, or you can talk it through, try and make sense of it and understand it. But until you're feeling it, it's not moving through you. And until it's your body revealing it to you and you fully understand why, with compassion, then it moves through you. So when people have addictions and addictive behaviors, they're just coping mechanisms, and they work to a degree. Like I said, when I was drinking, it stopped me from feeling. I had this perceived happiness. My sister always says it's borrowing happiness from the next day, because you get to the next day and you certainly don't feel happy. So feel sad when you need to feel sad. Forgiveness, this is a biggie because it's a byproduct of healing. And forgiveness is a gift for yourself, not for the other person. It is an internal process. It's also a sign of positive self-esteem, like you're worthy of being forgiven. And it's a letting go sense of emotions that are attached to our past that are difficult. In a retreat where I was a facilitator, I was teaching yoga and hosting some sessions on a retreat in Bali at one of my beautiful friends' retreats. And she asked me to join in on one of the activities, and it was painting, and I think it was painting with our non-dominant hand. And we would go through and we had to sort of paint and draw and let our emotions flow through. And even though I was in the role of a facilitator, like I always go full in if I'm being involved in an activity, because I want to just be me and show people that even though I'm facilitating a session, I'm also still human, and I still have things that I'm moving through or have moved through. And even this moment shocked me because we all had to stand up and share like what our painting meant and what had come up for us. And for me, it was forgiveness. It was forgiveness of the person who had murdered Josh. Like as the words came out of my mouth, I was shocked. I'm pretty sure everyone else in the room was shocked. But I just, at that point, had been channeling my anger to him, someone I did not know, someone I never want to know. But I was giving this person power, especially when you go through all the court proceedings and they'd asked me to come back multiple times after the court session. I'll share my court stuff later. But I just never wanted that to be what my life was about. Like, how could that one person already ruin so many lives? Like, they do not deserve the power to continue to ruin mine. So in that moment, I forgave him. Like, still it feels a bit emotional in my body. But as soon as I made that decision, like I don't often think about that part. In grief, generally this far down, I'm still just only remembering all the things, but it's nicer to remember the fun things. Even this morning, in my phone, a memory popped up and I watched this video of Josh and all of his friends lighting up a cane toad with a firework. And in my mind, sometimes you remember him as this like beautiful, like big gentle giant of a human. And then I'm listening to the words coming out of his mouth and his like hilarious laugh, but his filthy language. All of their language is filthy, to be honest. But it just gave me like a bit of a giggle because it's just human. And so forgiveness is a journey. It's not about anybody else. It's just about you, because you get to choose what you focus your attention on. And if I focus all my attention on hating this person for the rest of my life, what does that do? All it does is anger in my body, cause dis-ease. I'm the only one that's going to end up suffering more. So forgiveness is huge. And like I say, all of this emotion stuff, like none of it's easy. This is why it's called breath work. This is why self-development and moving through this, it takes courage. Let's just say that, because I think it's really easy. If it was, what's the point? It's just bringing awareness to your body. And you guys can begin to do this by becoming more in tune with your emotions. So when you feel angry, feel into what it really is. Is it about the situation, or does it go deeper? And have awareness. And so the ways to bring awareness is continue to come back to your breath. And so maybe that's the 7 belly breaths. Maybe that's enough to bring you back down. Maybe you need to do the Vidya daily practice, like a 5-minute process to get you out of your thinking mind and just drop into your subconscious. Maybe it's you meditate, maybe it's you move your body, you go for a run, or maybe you journal. My favorite ones, ways to co-regulate your body. So if it all feels a little bit too much, maybe you just need a big hug. Maybe you need to feel the ripple effect of somebody else, like watching a baby sleep, playing with puppies, hanging out with your niece or your nephew or your children, or going into a group session. Go to a group breathwork session. Be in a community. Talk. Because it's your mirror neurons that are, okay, so when you yawn, somebody else yawns. Like that's the effect. If you need the if you need the science, if you need the evidence, go yawn in front of someone. You see the ripple effect that we have on people, our energy. And it doesn't mean that just your energy is enough. You still need to take action to learn to feel each emotion. Because if we don't, we know what happens. And how cool if we all just are honest and feel our emotions. The world just gets to be way more fun, right? Instead of how are you feeling today? Yeah, good, I'm fine. How are you feeling today? Oh man, I'm so angry. This happened. But you know what I did? I went for a run, got rid of it, and like moved through my body, and now I feel good. So share whatever your new techniques become of this. I would love to hear them, because each and every one will be different. And the more we share our tools that work and the ones that maybe don't work for us or didn't resonate or work with the rest of the family, we're all just learning. Let's enjoy this wild, messy ride of life. Thanks, guys. Enjoy. That's a wrap for this episode of The Dark Side with Verity. I trust it's given you clarity, sparked awareness, and allowed you to breathe a little deeper, plus a little takeaway to integrate into your life. If this has resonated, I'd love you to leave a 5-star review, of course. More importantly, I would love you to share this with someone who's on their journey and needs a little bit of assistance. Come hang out with me over at Instagram at VerityJoKoonan or The Dark Side with Verity, or start to explore Vidya breathwork at verityjokoonan.co. Until next time, breathe deep, trust the process, and keep expanding. Much love.